James, 2024, what's it looking like for the Cats this year?
We feel positive. We've last year didn't finish the way we wanted it to finish, but the benefit of that is we've had a really long pre-season, longer than we've had for the previous 4 or 5 years, and we've had a lot of players that have come back fresh and got a lot of work in. And you never want to say that. We always wanted to bat deep in finals. That's always our aim. But in terms of how that we can rebound into 2024, that's the benefit for us, and we're feeling positive that we've had a really solid sort of 6 or 8 weeks, and the boys are in good shape and they're happy, and that's all we can ask for at this stage.
How different do you think the round 1 team will be to round 24 last season? Will it be major changes or quite similar?
I wouldn't say major changes. And the honesty of that situation is we're not sure yet either. We've still got a bit of pre-season. We've got game against Carlton, game against Essendon, sorry. So we always like to think it's a bit of an evolution of our team constantly. We'd like to think that the team in round 1 is different to the team in round 24 as well. So what we want to be able to do is just give everyone an opportunity to put their best foot forward, whether that's a first-year player or an older player who's closer to the end. So we want to make everyone feel like they can contribute, they can play, and they can put their best foot forward. And where that lands, we're not really sure just yet.
Are there any first-year players that really are putting their best foot forward? And if you could touch on Jai Clark as well, a lot of expectation around him after an injury-plagued season.
Yeah, like Jai specifically hasn't had a great prep for his first couple of years. He's been a bit unlucky, a few problems that are unavoidable. But we're really excited about what he can bring to the group as well. We don't want to put an expectation on him in terms of we'd love to see X or Y out of him for the season, but in terms of who he is as a person and a player, we're just excited about him getting a clean run at it. And for the first part about the first-year players, I think they're all going really well. Ollie Wilshire's sort of got picked from nowhere, Danny Barwin Heads, and we're really impressed what he's been able to do. Mitch Edwards has been really great. George Stevens is good. He's a really determined, driven kid. Connor obviously is really athletic, brings something different to the team as well. So it's sort of what I said before about where those guys end up fitting in the 2024 season. We don't know, but we don't ever want to say there's a ceiling on them as people or them as performers. So we just let them go and see what they can do and sort of guide them along the way as best we can.
Which young players do you think will push for a round 1 spot?
It's a little bit hard. As coaches, we're still dancing around what we want to do. So it's sort of hard to say, what young players are going to be available. But it's sort of the usual names of anyone that could think of are the people that will pop their heads up. So. But same as before, we don't want to put a ceiling on anyone. We don't want to say this player is going really well and he's a chance for round 1. That sort of puts a bit of an expectation on him. So we just want to have no ceiling on what everyone does and how they play. And the coaches have got the headache of trying to fit everyone in.
James, what makes you confident that 24 will be better than 23?
I guess I just know the footy club pretty well. I know the playing group relatively well. What I said before about 2023 giving us a bit of an opportunity for 2024. Longer pre-season, fresh players, guys were able to get surgeries, all those sort of footy things that happen generally off a longer pre-season. But in terms of what 2024 will bring, don't want to put a limit on that either. So, you can say sort of the question is what is better? How do we measure that? Do we measure that from wins? Do we measure that from blooding some young players? We're not really sure what that looks like. But in terms of, if you ask me if everyone's in a better spot than they were this time last year, I'd probably say yes, for the reasons I said before.
Will we see a different game style when we see the Carlton out and then the Essendon out? Is it going to be a tweak that we'll notice from what you were doing in 22, 23?
Yeah, I think as a group of coaches and players, senior players in particular, we're always trying to innovate in the game and always trying to find an advantage. We're trying to marry that up as best we can with the cohort of players that we've got and the skill sets that they bring. We don't want any player to feel like they don't fit within the system. So that's sort of a bit of an evolution as well. We want to follow the game trends, and I think to sort of maybe more directly answer your question, if we're playing the same footy we were last year, we're probably making a mistake. What that looks like going forward will constantly evolve. And I think that happens across the competition. You know, Collingwood won the premiership. I'd be surprised if they're just rolling out the same business as usual. And if we are, our heads aren't in that sort of innovative, evolutionary sort of phase, I think.
Cam Guthrie missed most of the last season. How's he tracking ahead of 2024?
Yeah, he looks really good. You know, he's unbelievably professional, unbelievably diligent. He had some time away at the end of last year and has come back just a really happy person and ready to train. It was a really long year for him. You know, he had a niggling injury that he couldn't get over, and there was a time there where he might have got back, and that's the sort of the worst time to be in as a player, when you're in sort of flux. Maybe you're going to get back, maybe you're not, but in terms of him coming back to this pre-season, he's come back training really well, looks good to my eye. I'm not a medical professional, but yeah, and he's happy to train. He's one of those older players who's come back fresh, happy, helping the young players, which is all we can ask for him.
Just on the injury front, like, is there anyone in the rehab group at all, or is it looking pretty fresh?
It's pretty good, to be honest. You know, the Scotty's talked about this a bit over the last couple of years. We've got enormous faith in our medical team and our sports science team, and the coaches don't really have to get in the weeds of that too much, which is great. And we just look at how many players we've got available for training on any given day, and that's always been really high this pre-season. So as someone who doesn't know too much about that stuff, that's what I can judge it off. We don't have a lot of guys in rehab, and if they are, they're sort of in and out relatively quickly, which is a great sign for the group.
What do you make of Tom Stewart when he's up to run through the middle a bit more? He's an All-Australian defender. Do you sort of run him through the middle a bit?
Yeah, I'd love to see it. He's, you know, I spend a fair bit of time coaching the back line, and it's maybe a bit counterintuitive for me to say that Tom Stewart shouldn't be there. But I think he can only benefit the team. He's big, he's fit, he's powerful. Having him around the ball, if you somehow could manufacture having him and Pat around the ball at the same time, they're pretty hard to defend, I reckon.
Your old friends, the Hawks, were training down the road yesterday. You didn't think to invite them down and have a little let out?
Oh, no, we had might have had a few little peepers down there having a look at them, but yeah, I think it's good that another team comes down here. It's good for us, good for the game, I reckon, that everyone's spreading out a little bit. Heard their camp went pretty well, so I'm happy for them that they got to enjoy what is Geelong and the Surf Coast.
Said you've been spending a lot of time with the back line. What's impressed you most about Connor O'Sullivan since he's come to the club, and do you think he can play some senior footy in 2024?
Yeah, he's just an impressive kid. You know, we heard in the lead up to the draft that he had good leadership qualities. He's tall, athletic. He can take a really good mark, all those sort of things in his draft report. We haven't seen anything to suggest otherwise. He's a really good learner. He's a conscientious kid, but also really determined. Really wants to be the best he can be. And those guys, you feel like a bit of a fraud as a coach, because you don't really have to do much. You just sort of got to let them go, guide them along the way. You know, and they sort of take care of themselves. But he's been really impressive as a person coming in, and he's one of those guys who comes in and just feels like a Geelong person really quickly.
You said before it's only early days, but who sort of do you have earmarked to fill the hole that Masaba left, obviously leaving this off-season?
Well, hopefully the guys that were injured last year. So, you know, we missed a down back with the defenders. Jack Henry missed a bit of footy. Collar missed a bit of footy. So did DK. He was sort of in and out a bit. So hopefully we've lost Sav, who was a great person, a good player. But hopefully those guys all stay fit, and we should be pretty sound after that. That's one of the things we're sort of still looking at. You know, do we play a bit of a smaller defence, a bit of a smaller forward line? We're not sure, so we just have to have a look at it. But those guys that I mentioned, they're all back fit training, so we should be fine.
Just on Jack Henry, specifically, obviously had that foot trouble at the end of the year, so he is in full training and expected to play round one.
Yeah, he looks good. He's been really happy. You know, he did have a few problems and had some surgery and all that sort of stuff, but his prep, given the time that he's had to prep, has been just a nice steady build. We feel really confident about where Jack is, and he's feeling confident, and every session he looks better, feels better, moves better, so We've still got a fair bit of time to get through, but at this stage I'd be pretty comfortable with where he's at.
Just on Toby Conway, do you expect there to be a bit more competition for that number 1 ruck spot with him against Reece Stanley with another pre-season under his belt?
Yeah, I think Toby's just maybe in a little bit of the category as Jai Clark. He's just enjoying being out there. He's had a few niggles. He's been in and out a little bit. He's a big lump of a lad, so he's carrying a fair bit around the ground. But he's happy that he's out there training, playing some good footy, and he's another one that we don't want to put a ceiling on what he's capable of or what he can do. We'd love everyone to be in the team, but more than that, we just want them to be as good as they can be, and they'll show us how that lands.
Your rucks have benefited from obviously Brad Altman's in and out over the years. Do you have some pointers with having Steve King back at the club? How's that been for Reece and Toby and Big Ben for?
Yeah, great. Like King was a fantastic player and is a fantastic coach. So we're just happy to have him in the building. Really, he's a great person. He's easy to work with for coaches and for players. He's obviously had really good experience, and those guys. If you're someone like Kingy, as good as he is and experienced as he is, you bring a lot of credibility to the table straight away. So the players listen intently. They just want to find something that you'll say that'll make them better. So those guys, having him in the building has been great, and hopefully we can get the big Ottertron back as well, and then they can sort of work the guys over together. So Kingy's been fantastic on all fronts, but particularly with the rucks.
How have you seen Sean Manners' first pre-season as a cap?
He's good, yeah. I can see why he got picked up. We sort of watched his year last year and how impactful he was at VFL level, and he's got good speed. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He understands the game really well. It's a bit of a different beast being at an AFL club full time. He's had to move and all that sort of stuff, but he just looks a part of the organisation really quickly. Looks like he belongs. He's a great learner. He wants to learn, wants to get better, which is all we can ask for. Where that lands, it's sort of up to him really. But we've been impressed with him.
When you drafted as a 26-year-old, are the expectations a bit different that you need to have an impact quicker than if you drafted as an 18?
Oh, not really, because you're sort of learning at the same level as the 18-year-olds. You're physically more capable. You can probably absorb a bit more training. You're a bit stronger. All those sorts of things that'll sort of help you out on the ground. But Sean's learning a new system, just like Connor O'Sullivan is. So, the expectation would be an expectation he puts on himself. We don't want to do that to him. We just want him to learn, get better, get fit, get strong, and just be a part of the program. So. I've sort of said it a few times, but the ceiling on the players, we don't want to have that at all, and we don't want them to have expectations. I think the players themselves and footy in general puts enough expectations on players. We don't want to contribute to that.